He broke his femur dropping his daughter off at ski lessons, had surgery, made it back for Daytona, finished 5th, and spent the first half of the season looking like one of the best stories NASCAR has produced in years. Now he's clinging to the playoff cut line by his fingernails, and the clock is running out. How does a comeback season become a collapse this fast? And more importantly, can Brad Keselowski stop the bleeding before it's too late? Here's where things stand. Keselowski entered the back third of the regular season sitting 9th in Cup Series points, comfortably inside the Chase field with room to spare. In the span of roughly a month, that cushion has completely evaporated. In 5 of his last 7 races, he has finished 30th or worse. 3 of his last 3 race weekends have ended early due to on-track incidents. After going the first 13 races of 2026 without a single DNF, the number 6 RFK Racing Ford has been involved in crash after crash at exactly the wrong moment of the calendar. Sunday at Pocono added another one to the list, another early exit, another chunk of the standings gone. By race's end, Keselowski had slid all the way down to the playoff cut line, a position that would have seemed unthinkable 4 weeks ago. To understand how significant this reversal is, you need to go back to January. Keselowski slipped on ice and broke his femur, not a hairline fracture, a full break requiring surgery, and immediately the question started. Would he make Daytona? Would RFK Racing need a fill-in driver? Would the whole 2026 season be compromised before it even started? He skipped the clash. He rehabbed. He showed up at Daytona and finished 5th. It was the kind of performance that shifts the narrative from question mark to exclamation point overnight, and the spring only reinforced it. Keselowski built momentum steadily, raced clean, accumulated points, and gave RFK Racing something to work with across all 3 of its entries. The organization looked positioned to potentially put all 3 cars in the postseason, a massive organizational milestone. Now that picture is flipped entirely. The points he spent months earning are gone. The buffer he built is gone. And RFK Racing, which looked like a 3-car Chase outfit a month ago, is now staring down a scenario where their most experienced driver might not even make the field. What makes this collapse particularly difficult to process for Keselowski, for the team, and for anyone watching is that it isn't a performance problem. The speed has been there. The No. 6 car hasn't suddenly become uncompetitive. What's changed is the circumstances surrounding the results. Accidents, contact, wrong place, wrong time repeatedly. That's a different kind of crisis than a car that can't run up front. And in some ways, it's harder to fix. When a team is slow, you address the setup. When a team keeps getting collected in other people's incidents, the solution is murkier. You can talk about track positioning. You can talk about early race conservatism. But in NASCAR, some of this is genuinely outside a driver's control. And that's what makes this stretch so maddening for Keselowski specifically. He's a driver who understands playoff math as well as anyone in the garage. He won a championship with Penske. He knows exactly what these races cost him and why they cost him. That awareness doesn't make the situation easier. It probably makes it harder to sit with. The strategic reality right now is stark. With the regular season winding down, every race that ends early is a race where points go to everyone else and none to him. The drivers who are ahead of him on the bubble aren't necessarily racing better. They're just finishing. And finishing right now is the only currency that matters. RFK Racing also has to weigh what this means organizationally. Do they change anything on the number 6 car? Do they get more conservative in how they manage Keselowski's race days? Or do they trust that this is a variance problem that will correct itself? None of those options come with guarantees, and the runway is getting shorter by the week. The comparison that keeps coming up is this. Drivers who survive the bubble late in the regular season almost always do it by going dark. No risks, no gambling, clean laps, points on the board. That's not always how Keselowski races, and it might not be what the number 6 team is built to do at this stage of the year. When the comeback story was building, Keselowski was one of the most universally rooted for drivers in the field. The broken leg, the surgery, the return, that narrative had no enemies. Fans who didn't even follow RFK Racing were invested. Now the tone is shifting, not toward criticism exactly. The incidents haven't been his fault in most cases, but toward anxiety. There's a sense in the NASCAR community that this is exactly the kind of season that becomes a cautionary tale if it doesn't turn around. Analysts had been direct about the math. The cushion is gone. The streak of bad finishes is real. And while the word collapse feels dramatic, the numbers don't offer a softer alternative. What you're also starting to hear in the coverage is the question of organizational depth. Specifically, whether RFK Racing has the resources and the strategic bandwidth to reverse a team's trajectory this late in the year. It's not a damning question, but it's one that gets asked when a well-positioned team starts sliding. Best case, Keselowski strings together 2 or 3 clean top 15 finishes over the next few weeks. The incidents stop. The car keeps its speed. He reclaims the cushion he built earlier in the year, locks into the chase field before the cutoff, and the comeback story gets a proper ending. The broken leg becomes the setup. The playoffs become the payoff. Worst case, the incidents continue. The late race luck doesn't turn. Keselowski finishes the regular season on the wrong side of the cut line and misses the chase entirely. The 2026 season, which started as one of the sport's best comeback narratives, becomes the story of a driver who made it back from injury only to have the season collapse around him at the worst possible time. That's not just a bad finish, it's the kind of missed opportunity that follows a career storyline for years. Brad Keselowski broke his leg, had surgery, made it back in time for Daytona, finished 5th, and spent months building one of the most compelling stories the sport has seen in a long time. And right now, that story is 3 bad weekends away from an ending nobody wanted. So here's the question we're putting to you. Is this fixable, or has the momentum shifted so hard that Keselowski and RFK Racing simply can't stop it in time? Leave your take in the comments. This is one that's going to matter a lot over the next few weeks, and we want to know where you stand. If this is the coverage you come back for, you already know what to do.